Have you ever felt the ground just disappear beneath you? Not as some poetic metaphor, but as a real physical vertigo. That's what hit me in that cold conference room, the hum of the air conditioning, the only sound besides my own heart pounding in my throat. Across the polished glass table, David, the new director sent from headquarters, slid a piece of paper across to me. On it, a number and a percentage. 70%. Less. My salary would be cut by more than 2/3, effective immediately. I didn't cry. Not there, anyway. I forced the most professional smile I could manage and said, "I'll need 24 hours to consider the offer," as if it were negotiation, as if my life hadn't just been imploded. The crying happened later, in my car, in the underground parking garage. A raw, ugly, heaving sob that fogged up all the windows. Hi, I'm Eleanor Vance. I'm 38, a single mom to an amazing 11-year-old boy named Leo, and until that meeting, I was the strategic accounts manager at AgriGreen Solutions. If you're watching this and you connect with that feeling of injustice, please hit like and subscribe to the channel for more stories like mine. AgriGreen. When I started there, we were 15 people in a converted warehouse in the outskirts of the city. That startup energy, where everyone feels a bit like an owner, dreaming of revolutionizing sustainable agriculture. I was hired as an account analyst, but I gave it my all. I dove headfirst. I worked tirelessly. I lost count of how many nights I stayed late, how many weekends I spent in front of my computer. I missed Leo's school plays, postponed vacations, all those things you swear you won't do. But you do, because you're building something. And I was good, really good. Within 3 years, I was managing the company's 5 largest accounts, cooperatives and major producers that combined represented over 60% of our revenue. I didn't just know their systems, I knew their planting cycles, their irrigation challenges, the farm manager's name. These were relationships I personally cultivated. When Leo's dad decided that family life and my ambition were stifling him and moved south with a CrossFit instructor, these clients became my lifeline, my security. By the 5th year, I was promoted to manager. I had a team, profit sharing, a salary that allowed me to pay our rent and afford Leo's asthma medication without having to choose between groceries and utilities. For the first time since the divorce, I could breathe. Until Global Harvest Corporation bought us. I remember the all-hands meeting in our makeshift cafeteria. Arthur, our founder, standing on a wooden makeshift stage talking about how exciting this next chapter would be, how Global Harvest Corporation's resources would help us scale our vision. Everyone was clapping like seals, and I sat there wondering why Arthur couldn't look any of us in the eye. Later, I found out he got $15 million from the acquisition. Clean. Our profit sharing? It vanished, replaced by a new corporate bonus plan with targets so absurd it was obvious no one would ever reach them. The first few months were a slow death. New email signatures, new bureaucratic procedures, endless meetings. But my team was still there. My clients, my salary. Until the restructurings began. First the junior people, then the coordinators. Each wave brought a corporate email about optimizing operations and leveraging synergies. Each wave, someone's desk was empty the next day. No goodbyes. They just vanished. I kept my head down, worked harder. My team shrank from 6 to 2 people, but the client load only increased. I was working 12, 14-hour days, answering emails at 2 a.m., having panic attacks in the bathroom between calls. Leo started asking why I was always on my notebook, why I couldn't go to his judo practices anymore, why I always looked so tired. And still, I thought I was safe. I managed the accounts that brought in most of our revenue. They needed me. That's what I told myself right up until David's secretary scheduled that quick touch base on my calendar. I should have known something was wrong when I walked in and saw Sarah from HR sitting next to David. Sarah, who always avoided eye contact and spoke in a soft voice, as if apologizing for existing. David, on the other hand, looked me up and down, adjusting the expensive watch on his wrist. He never called me Ellie.
Eleanor, he began, we've been reviewing the organizational structure and feel there's an opportunity to realign your compensation with market standards. Market standards, like I was a bag of grain, a commodity. Sarah slid the paper across the table. The new salary was right there, in bold. $1,200, a drop of nearly $3,000. This reflects the changing nature of your role, David said, with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. We're centralizing most client management functions at headquarters. You'll be transitioning to more of a regional support position. Translation, we're taking your clients, your authority, and most of your paycheck, but we still need you to do the work. You'll maintain your current responsibilities during the transition period, of course, he added. Of course. We need your decision by tomorrow, Sarah said, finally looking at me, but with pity. If this new arrangement doesn't work for you, we understand, but we'll need to immediately begin searching for someone who's aligned with our new structure. Someone cheaper, she meant. Someone desperate. They knew I was a single mom. They knew about Leo's medical needs. They knew about my rent. This wasn't a negotiation. It was an execution. I need 24 hours, I said, my voice steady despite the scream caught in my throat. David nodded, pleased with my professionalism. I don't remember walking back to my desk. I don't remember packing up my notebook. I just remember sitting in my car, shaking, wondering how I was going to tell Leo we might have to move. That's when my phone rang. Clara Mills, my old colleague who had left AgriGreen about 8 months earlier. I almost didn't answer. But then I thought, what the hell? Maybe for 5 minutes I could pretend my life wasn't imploding. Hey, stranger, I said, trying to sound normal. Ellie, she said, I've been trying to reach you all week. Haven't you checked your LinkedIn? I hadn't. I'd been too busy keeping clients happy, keeping my team from quitting, keeping everything from falling apart. Listen, Clara said, I'm at AgroConnect now. They're Global Harvest's biggest competitor, right? My boss has been asking about you. A lot. We need someone with your client experience with the major cooperatives. Would you be open to a conversation? I looked at the AgriGreen building through my windshield, at the logo they'd pasted over hours. I thought about David and his watch. I thought about Arthur, who had sold us out and disappeared to his penthouse in Miami. Actually, I said, I think tonight would be perfect. If this story has hooked you so far, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next chapters of real life. I drove home in a daze, my mind racing. I wasn't stupid. I knew what calling Global Harvest's competitor would mean. There'd be no going back. But they'd already decided I was disposable. What did I owe them? When I got home, I paid the babysitter, kissed Leo goodnight. He was already asleep. I'd missed his bedtime again. And opened my notebook. I spent an hour looking through my employment contract, the original one from AgriGreen. No non-compete clause. AgriGreen had been too small, too idealistic when I joined to bother with those. Global Harvest had tried to implement new contracts for recent hires, but they hadn't gotten around to us legacy employees yet. Their mistake. At 10 p.m., I called Clara back. Can you set up a meeting with your boss? Tomorrow morning. I need to give Global Harvest an answer to something. Is it that bad? Worse, I said. They cut my salary by 70%, but kept all my responsibilities. Actually added more. Clara was quiet for a moment. Then, those bastards. Yeah. Give me 15 minutes, she said. I'm texting Michael right now. Michael Sterling, the CEO of AgroConnect, Global Harvest's biggest rival, and the company that had been trying to snatch our cooperative clients for years. 20 minutes later, my phone rang again. Eleanor? This is Michael Sterling from AgroConnect. Clara tells me we need to meet first thing tomorrow. His voice was direct, no corporate fluff. Yes, I said. I think we might be able to help each other. I'm guessing Global Harvest is finally doing their post-acquisition purge? Something like that. How does 7:30 a.m. sound? I can meet you at the Daily Grind Cafe, away from both our offices. Clara says you have a decision to make tomorrow. 7:30 works, I said, surprising myself with how calm I sounded.
After we hung up, I sat on my couch for a long time, staring at nothing. Was I really doing this? Was I really considering jumping ship to the competition? But it wasn't a ship anymore, was it? It was a sinking lifeboat, and Global Harvest was throwing people overboard to save themselves. I opened my notebook again and pulled up my client files. Not the official CRM data that belonged to the company, of course, but my personal notes. 9 years of relationship details. Who to call when contracts got stuck in legal, which CTOs were planning system overhauls, which companies were unhappy with Global Harvest's recent service changes. Information that wasn't confidential exactly, but was valuable. Very valuable. I'd built these relationships. I'd earned this knowledge. And tomorrow I was going to find out what it was worth. I closed my notebook and checked on Leo again, watching him sleep for a few minutes, his little chest rising and falling, the inhaler on his nightstand, the certificate from his last school race pinned to his bulletin board. I'm going to fix this. I promise. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. I lay awake thinking about what I was about to do, wondering if I was being impulsive, wondering if I was being disloyal. But loyal to what? A company that no longer existed except as a line item on Global Harvest's balance sheet. People who saw me as nothing but a number they could cut. By morning, I knew exactly what I was going to say to Michael Sterling and to David. I dressed carefully, my best suit, the one I saved for closing big deals. Hair perfect, makeup flawless, armor. I dropped Leo at school, hugged him extra tight, and told him I loved him. "You okay, Mom?" he asked, looking up at me with his serious little face. "I will be," I said. And for the first time in months, I believed it. The Daily Grind Cafe was quiet at 7:30, just a few early risers with their notebooks and commuter mugs. Michael was easy to spot. Tall, silver at the temples, dressed casually but expensively. Clara sat beside him, gave me a small wave. I took a deep breath and walked over to their table. "Eleanor Vance?" Michael stood, offered his hand. "I've heard a lot about you, from Clara, of course, and from just about every client we've tried and failed to steal from AgriGreen over the years." I smiled. "Well, those clients might be more open to conversations now." Michael's eyebrows raised. "Is that right? Why don't you sit down and tell me exactly what's happening over there?" So I did. All of it. The acquisition, the culture change, the way they were gutting the company while expecting the same results, the impossible workloads, the pay cut. Michael listened without interrupting. When I finished, he glanced at Clara, then back at me. "Ellie, we've been waiting for you to call us for a long time." That sentence hung in the air between us. I remember taking a sip of my coffee to buy myself a moment, because suddenly this wasn't just about saving my job. This was about something bigger. "What exactly does that mean?" I asked. Michael leaned forward. "It means we've tried to recruit you 3 times over the past 2 years. Each time your loyalty to AgriGreen won out. But Global Harvest doesn't deserve that loyalty. And frankly, we're prepared to make you an offer that shows exactly how much we value your relationships and expertise." He pushed a folder across the table. Inside was an offer letter. Director of Strategic Partnerships. $17,500, base salary, 30% annual bonus potential, health benefits that would cover Leo's medications completely, stock options. I couldn't finish the sentence. "Fair market value for someone with your skills and client book, plus a signing bonus if you can start within 2 weeks. I stared at the number. It was $2,500 more than I'd been making at AgriGreen before the takeover, more than 3 times what Global Harvest was offering me. Why? Why this much? Michael didn't hesitate. Because we've lost 6 major contracts to AgriGreen in the past 4 years, all accounts you managed. Because our research tells us that when clients work with you, their retention rate is 96% compared to an industry average of 75%. I've personally had 4 cooperative directors tell me they stay with AgriGreen because of you. You're not just an account manager, Eleanor. You're a competitive advantage, one that Global Harvest is too stupid to recognize. I felt something shift inside me. A lifetime of being underestimated, of working twice as hard for half the credit, of smiling through meetings where men repeated my ideas louder and got praised for them. And here was someone who actually saw my value. "There's one more thing," Clara said quietly. "Tell her, Michael." Michael nodded. "We've heard rumors that Global Harvest is planning to move all client services overseas, specifically to cost centers in India, within 7 or 8 months. They're using these pay cuts to push people out so they don't have to pay severance." My stomach dropped. "How do you know that?" "Their new VP of operations came from a multinational beverage company. He did the exact same thing there 3 years ago. It's his playbook." 7 months? They weren't just cutting my pay. They were eliminating my job entirely. They just wanted me to train my replacement first. "I need to pick up my son from school at 3:30, I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice was. "But I can come back to AgroConnect with you right now. I'd like to see the office before I make a final decision." Michael smiled. "Of course. And we'd like you to meet the team." 3 hours later, I walked back into Global Harvest Regional Office with a signed offer letter from AgroConnect in my bag and a plan forming in my mind. David was waiting in the conference room, looking impatient. Sarah from HR sat beside him, a folder with my name on it in front of her. "Eleanor," David said, not bothering to stand, "have you made your decision?" I sat down across from them, placed my hands flat on the table, and smiled. "I have some questions first." David sighed theatrically. "We really need a simple yes or no today. As we explained, we're restructuring the entire department." "I understand," I began, my voice calm and controlled, "but I manage our 5 largest accounts. I'd like to know who will be handling the AgriFarm implementation next month and the central co-op contract renewal in August." David waved his hand dismissively. "We'll distribute those responsibilities appropriately. That's not something you need to worry about." Actually, I do worry about it. I promised Miss Clara from AgriFarm that I'd personally oversee their transition, and Mr. Thompson from Central Co-op specifically asked for my involvement in the renewal discussions. "Those are company relationships, not personal ones," David said, his voice hardening. "Now, about the offer. Do you accept?" "Is it true you're moving client services overseas in 7 or 8 months?" I asked. The color drained from David's face. Sarah suddenly became very interested in her folder. "Where did you hear that?" David asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Is it true?" I insisted. "That's confidential company information," he said, trying to regain his composure. "So that's a yes." I leaned forward. "Were you planning to tell me that before I accepted a 70% pay cut to train my replacement? This meeting is about your current offer, not hypothetical future restructuring. Now, do you accept the new terms or not?" I took a deep breath, thought about Leo, about our apartment, about 9 years of my life. "I quit." The words hung in the air between us. David blinked. "Excuse me?" "I quit. Effective immediately." He recovered quickly, his face settling into a smug smile. "I'm afraid company policy requires 2 weeks of notice from manager-level employees. Check my contract. The original AgriGreen contract that never got updated after the acquisition. It states that notice periods are equivalent to severance periods. Since AgriGreen never offered severance beyond 1 week, that's my required notice." The smile faltered. "You'll need to transition your accounts." "Actually, I don't. I stood up. My contract also states that in the event of a compensation reduction exceeding 15%, all transition requirements are waived. That was added after Dr. Mark Jensen quit and tried to hold his clients hostage for a better severance package. You might not remember that since you weren't here, but I helped Arthur draft that clause. David was turning an interesting shade of red. Sarah looked like she wanted to disappear into her chair. "You can't just walk out on your responsibilities," he sputtered. "Watch me." I turned to go, then paused at the door. "Oh, and I've accepted a position with AgroConnect Solutions. Since AgriGreen never implemented a non-compete agreement and Global Harvest never asked me to sign one, I'll be starting there on Monday."
The explosion I expected didn't come. Instead, David's face went completely blank, which was somehow more terrifying. "You've just made a serious mistake," he said quietly. "We'll be reviewing all of your communications and client interactions. If we find even a hint that you've been poaching clients or sharing proprietary information, we'll bury you in litigation." I felt a chill. Not because I'd done anything wrong, I hadn't, but because I knew how these things went. Big companies with deep pockets could make your life hell, even if you were completely innocent. "I haven't taken anything that doesn't belong to me," I said. "My client relationships, though, the trust I've built over 9 years, that belongs to me, and I'm taking it with me." I walked out before he could respond, heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst through my chest. My team was waiting at my desk, Lucas and Amanda, the last survivors of what had once been 6. They knew, of course they knew. News travels fast in dying companies. "Is it true?" Amanda asked. "You're leaving?" I nodded. "What about us?" Lucas looked terrified. He had just financed an apartment. "Check your emails in an hour," I said quietly. "All of you." I packed my desk quickly. Family photos, the stupid world's best boss mug my team had given me as a joke 2 Christmases ago, the emergency inhaler I kept for Leo. 9 years of my life fit into one cardboard box. Security escorted me out, like company policy for high-level departures, like I was suddenly a threat, like I hadn't given almost a decade of my life to this place. I didn't cry this time, not in the elevator, not in the lobby, not even in my car. Instead, I pulled out my phone and made 3 calls. First, to Michael. "I've quit. They took it about as well as you'd expect." He said, "We'll have legal ready. Don't worry." Second, to my old boss, Arthur. He picked up on the 5th ring, sounding like he was on a beach somewhere. "Ellie, is everything okay?" "Not really, Arthur. Global Harvest just tried to cut my salary by 70%. I quit and took a job with AgroConnect." Silence. Then, shit. "I'm sorry, Ellie. The acquisition wasn't supposed to go like this." But it did. And now they're threatening to sue me for accepting another job, a job that pays me what I'm actually worth. More silence. "What do you need from me?" "I need you to remind them that you never implemented non-competes at AgriGreen because you said, and I quote, 'We don't treat people well enough to make them want to stay. We deserve to lose them.'" Arthur sighed. "I'll call Global Harvest's CEO, Dr. Robert Sterling, myself. This isn't right." My third call was to Miss Clara, Director of Supply at AgriFarm, our biggest client, the one whose system implementation was scheduled for next month. "Miss Clara, it's Eleanor Vance." "Ellie, I was just about to call you. We need to move up the timeline on the implementation by 2 weeks. The board—" "Miss Clara," I interrupted gently, "I'm not with AgriGreen anymore. As of today." The shock in her voice was audible. "What? Where are you going?" "AgroConnect Solutions, Michael Sterling's company." "Our backup supplier?" "Yes." There was a long pause. "Is this because of the Global Harvest acquisition? We've been worried about that ourselves. Service has been slipping." "It is. They're making major changes, including removing me from your account." Another pause. "Without telling us?" "That's right." "And who's taking over the implementation?" "They wouldn't tell me." "Bullshit," Miss Clara said. And that's why I loved her. 20 years in agri-tech had stripped away any corporate niceties. This implementation is critical for us. The board is watching it personally. We specifically requested you in the contract. I know. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Send me your new contact info at AgroConnect. We need to talk. By the time I picked Leo up from school, I'd received 18 text messages and 25 emails. 7 from my team, forwarding messages from David, instructing them to maintain client continuity and prepared transition documents for all my accounts. 1 from Arthur, confirming he'd spoken to Dr. Robert Sterling directly, and the rest from clients who'd somehow already heard I was leaving. Mom, Leo climbed into the car, immediately sensing something was different. Why are you picking me up? It's not Friday. I turned to look at him. This beautiful, serious little boy who deserved so much better than a mother who was always working, always stressed, always one bad month away from financial disaster.
I left my job today, I said simply. His eyes widened. The one you're always working at? The one that makes you cry sometimes when you think I'm asleep? My heart broke a little. Of course he'd noticed. Yeah, that one. Good, he said firmly. I didn't like how they treated you. Out of the mouths of babes. I got a new job, I told him. One that pays better and will give me more time with you. And better insurance for your asthma medications. He considered this. Will you be able to come to my judo tournament next month? Front row, I promised, with embarrassing signs and everything. He grinned. Cool. That night, after Leo was asleep, my phone rang. A number I didn't recognize. Is this Eleanor Vance? A man's voice, unfamiliar. Yes. Sir, I'm David Burr at Global Harvest. We need to talk. My blood ran cold. The founder and CEO of Global Harvest Corporation calling me personally? Mr. Sterling, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Yes, I suppose we do. Arthur called me. He's very upset about how you've been treated. I said nothing, waited. I've also received calls from Miss Clara at AgriFarm and Mr. Thompson at Central Co-op, both expressing concern about your departure and hinting they may need to reevaluate their vendor relationships. Still, I waited. Miss Vance, are you actively encouraging our clients to follow you to AgroConnect? No, sir. I've simply informed them that I'm no longer with the company. They've drawn their own conclusions. David tells a different story. David offered me a 70% pay cut without any reduction in responsibilities, didn't tell me the position was being eliminated in 7 months, and then threatened to sue me for accepting another job, so you'll forgive me if I don't put much stock in his version of events. Silence. The pay cut and outsourcing plan were not approved by me or the executive committee, and yet they happened. Another silence. What would it take to bring you back, to repair the situation? I almost laughed. You're kidding. I'm very serious. AgriFarm and Central Co-op represent over $25 million in annual contracts. If they leave, others will follow. We've run the numbers. It would be significantly less expensive to keep you than to lose those accounts. Now, I did laugh. So you're worth keeping if it costs you millions to lose me, but not if it just makes my life impossible? Do you hear yourself, Mr. Sterling? Business is business, Miss Vance. I'm trying to offer you an opportunity here. No, thank you. I've accepted a position with AgroConnect, one that values me appropriately from the start, not just when you realize how badly you've screwed up. We're prepared to match their offer, plus a retention bonus. It's not about the money, I said, surprised to find I meant it. It's about respect. It's about 9 years of my life that your company dismissed with a thought. It's about the fact that you're calling me now, not because how I was treated was wrong, but because it's becoming expensive. What do you want then? He sounded genuinely confused. I want, as David is doing to that office, and ask yourself if that's really the company you want to build. That's it? That's all you want? That and for you to stop threatening to sue me for taking a new job. I didn't steal anything. I didn't poach anyone. I simply refuse to be devalued. There was a long pause. No lawsuit, he finally said. As for the rest, I'll be visiting the regional office next week to see things for myself. 3 days later, I started at AgroConnect. They gave me a real office, not a cubicle. My team, yes, I got to build my own team, included Lucas and Amanda, who'd quit Global Harvest the day after I left. 2 weeks after that, David was pursuing other opportunities. Sarah from HR too. A month later, Miss Clara called to tell me AgriFarm was moving their business to AgroConnect. The implementation team they sent couldn't find their way out of a paper bag, and when I complained, they told me my expectations were unrealistic. Mr. Thompson from Central Co-op followed 2 months after that, then Greenfields Ranch, then Cedar Valley Farms.
By the 6-month mark, 4 of my former 5 top clients had moved to AgroConnect. Not because I poached them. I was scrupulously careful never to initiate those conversations. But because relationships matter, trust matters. And when you've spent years proving yourself, people notice when you're gone. Robert Sterling kept his word. There was no lawsuit. There was, however, a complete restructuring of the regional office. The overseas transition was quietly abandoned. Salaries were adjusted to better align with market standards. Too little, too late for many, including me. It's been 3 years now. I'm still at AgroConnect, Executive Vice President of Client Success. I have a team of 18. I make more money than I ever thought possible. Most importantly, I make it home for dinner with Leo almost every night. I haven't missed a judo tournament or a school play in years. Last month, I ran into Arthur at an agriculture tech conference. He gave me a hug, told me he was proud of me, said leaving AgriGreen was the best career move I could have made. He said, looking genuinely regretful, "I thought Global Harvest would keep their promises." I said, "It's business," echoing Robert Sterling's words to me. Nothing personal. But that's a lie, isn't it? It's always personal. Our work, our worth, our lives, they're deeply, intensely personal. Pretending otherwise is just a way for companies to treat people as disposable. The real revenge wasn't the clients who followed me. It wasn't David getting fired or Global Harvest losing millions. It wasn't even my beautiful new office or my big salary. The real revenge was discovering my own value. Standing up and saying, no, I am worth more than this. I deserve better. And then going out and creating that better for myself. I think about that meeting with Sarah and David sometimes, that paper sliding across the desk, that moment when they thought they had all the power and I had none. They were wrong. We all have power. Sometimes we just need to be pushed to our breaking point before we realize it. And if this story resonated with you, tell me in the comments where you are watching from. I need to know I'm not screaming into the void here.